The Other Side of Things, written by Asthmatic B, read by Hijinks Audio. Chapter 6, Izuku Needs a Hug. Summary, in which a mask breaks and trust is given. Hope is a fickle thing. In darkest times, hope can be the only thing that keeps you going, and at first the boy clings to it. He is 10 and alone and hoping for a hero to save him. But a hero never comes. Pain is a dangerous thing. It can keep you grounded when around you the world is blurring, and at first the pain keeps the boy tethered to reality. He is 10 and alone and prays for the pain to stop. But the pain never stops. The boy wants to scream, but his voice has left him. Sensei tells him the pain is his own fault. If only the boy would learn, would accept that heroes and light mean pain and suffering, and only him and the League can make it stop, make him strong, set him free. One day, the pain stops. He is 10 and no longer alone when a large hand threads through his damp hair.
Where is your home?
With the League.
Who saved you?
Sensei. He is 10 when he learns that help will never come. He is 10 when he learns that control is all that matters. He is 10 when he learns to weave a mask and a role to give him control. He is 10 when he learns that hope is for the weak. Hope is a fickle thing. Pain is a dangerous thing. Control is certainty. Shinzo watches Midoriya take 3 blades for Eraserhead in him without a moment's hesitation, and something in him snaps. His voice is steadier than he feels as he shouts, "Hey, you fucking asshole!" The hero killer looks at him and snarls, and Shinzo latches onto his mind the moment the first sound escapes the man's lips, crimson eyes turning dull. He holds fast to his mind control while his teacher gently lowers their TA to the ground, trying not to look at the other teens' bleeding wounds. It had only been 10 minutes since they had run after Midoriya, following Aizawa's phone to the caller's location, but the alley looked like the battle had gone on for much longer than that.
Good work, Shinzo,
Aizawa murmurs beside him, his capture weapon surging forward and wrapping Stain in a hold that seemed slightly tighter than it needed to be. He felt his control slip, but before the hero killer could regain his bearings, his teacher had kicked him hard in the side of his head, knocking him out cold. Their eyes met briefly, and Aizawa quickly focused on helping Ida up, who seemed surprised that he could move again, while Shinzo moved to look at the down pro hero in the corner.
That seemed unusually brutal of you, Sensei,
he muttered, while bandaging Native's bleeding shoulder.
Perhaps.
He heard his classmate grunt in pain as their teacher steadied him to help him walk out of the alleyway, requesting an ambulance and cop car with the app on his phone, frown on his face.
I've never taken injured children well.
Shinzo smirked, moving to help the barely conscious pro to his feet.
Yamada-sensei is right. You're a real softie. If you don't want to suffer detention, you better shut up now, kid.
Aizawa passed him on his way out of the alley, carefully lifting the unconscious villain in his arms to carry him to the main street. Gently leaning him against a wall so the wound on his side and the knives in his back weren't aggravated, he began to clean and bandage the teen's hand.
How did Midoriya know where to find you, Ida?
Ida flinched, the blood leaving his face.
I sent him my location.
Shinzo raised an eyebrow as he grabbed the end of the capture weapon and unceremoniously dragged Stain out onto the street, then turned to his friend to bandage his shoulder.
How did you get his number, Ida?
Ida sighed, averting his gaze.
He gave it to me. Said to send him my location if I come across the hero killer.
Blue eyes came to rest on the unconscious teenager, and he bit his lip.
I didn't think he'd come alone.
Shinzo cuffed him upside the head, ignoring his indignant glare.
Of course he came alone, dumbass. He even broke his comlink. What? Why? I would have had to order him to refrain from engaging Stain.
Aizawa's voice drifted to them, the man busy with the teen's head wound.
By destroying the comlink, he's able to claim it was an accident, and didn't have to choose between leaving you at Stain's mercy and opposing my orders.
Before Ida could say more, they heard sirens behind them, the cop car being the first to arrive and the officers wasting no time in putting the knocked-out hero killer in cuffs, handing the capture weapon back to Aizawa. They were about to search him for weapons when a loud screech sounded above their heads. In a flash, Eraserhead was in the claws of a flying Nomu, quickly getting carried away. Shinzo cursed, then followed a green blur barreling past him. Midoriya, steadier on his legs than should be possible, grabbed one of the cop's guns with his bandaged hand. "Fuck," he hissed, as he had to resort to placing his middle finger on the trigger. Midoriya aimed, hands impossibly still, rapidly firing 4 shots at the retreating Nomu. Shinzo barely managed to catch the teenage villain, the burst of energy leaving him as quickly as it had appeared. The Nomu crashed behind them, and it seemed to free the rest of the people around them from a trance. The owner of the gun quickly took it back from Midoriya's slack grip, the other running towards the downed mutant and the pro-hero slowly coming back to his feet. "Are you alright, Eraserhead?"
"Yeah."
came his teacher's grumpy reply, his gaze trained on the Nomu's brain.
"Who shot?" It was Midoriya, sensei."
That was Ida, walking over to help Shinzo with the surprisingly heavy body of their TA. The teacher's eyes went wide, his eyes coming to rest on the teenager with a missing finger and an eye covered in gauze.
"You're trying to tell me that he took a cop's gun, aimed at a flying target's brain, and hit it 4 times in a close cluster in that condition?"
Shinzo and Ida looked at each other, then down at the unconscious madman in their arms. Looking back at their teacher, all they could do was shrug. Aizawa groaned, loudly, rubbing a hand across his face.
"I'm too old for this shit."
Izuku groaned as he groggily opened his right eye, his left eye covered in a large patch. The lights above him stabbed at his nerves, a pounding headache and nausea washing over him. The next thing he felt was a numb throb in his right hand, his side, and his back, and for a moment he wondered if he'd been run over by a train.
"Finally awake, kid."
He turned his head to the voice by his side and blinked. "Eraser?" The pro-hero seemed tired, but lacked his custom frown and exasperation. Instead, he looked at Izuku with something like relief.
"You scared us there. You've been asleep for almost 24 hours.
Aizawa shook his head.
Never again do something like this. I'm too young for grey hairs and a heart attack."
It took him a moment, but the memories came rushing back, fuzzy but whole. With a start, he attempted to sit up, but firm, gentle hands grabbed his shoulders and pressed him back into the mattress.
"Don't rush. You will just aggravate your stitches, kid."
Izuku frowned. Frowned? He was most definitely not pouting, and glared at his warden.
"Is everyone alright?"
Aizawa scoffed and rolled his eyes, leaning back in the shitty plastic chair beside his bed.
"You're the only one with any permanent injuries, kid. I hope it was worth it to lose a finger and gain a bunch of scars."
He shrugged, moving his one-eyed gaze to the ceiling, looking at nothing in particular. "I mean, the finger kinda sucks, will make shooting a gun kinda hard, but I've had worse wounds, and a few more scars don't really matter." Izuku smirked then.
Should a hero and teacher really ask if saving a kid and pro was worth it? Ow!
Eraserhead had hit him over the head, glaring.
"It is not your job to risk your life, you idiot."
"Well, better my life than someone who's got some worth left." The two of them glared at each other, and Izuku thought that the only reason Eraserhead had yet to beat him up was his condition.
"No one is worthless, kid."
The older man grabbed his right hand, carefully, and it felt weird to be missing a finger in the grip.
"What you did was stupid and thoughtless, but I want to thank you. What you did was very heroic."
Later on, Izuku would blame it on the pain meds they were giving him, because really, the pro's words shouldn't have affected him as they did. He had long since given up on being a hero, was planning things that were as opposed to heroism as he dared. He would blame it on his own recklessness, getting as attached and involved as he had. As Izuku cried, he felt Aizawa gently move to embrace him, helping him sit up, and he wasted no time in returning the hero's hug, his bandaged face pressed into the old man's shoulder. He wanted to thank him, that tiny part of him he had failed to snuff out growing warm at his words, but his voice failed him. But it didn't matter, because Aizawa seemed to know regardless as he rubbed his back soothingly. Once he had calmed down and Eraserhead had moved him to be sat propped up against a pillow, the man regarded him for a moment, before he asked, an eyebrow raised.
"Now, I want you to be honest. Were those just lucky shots?"
That made Izuku pause and tilt his head, at a loss for words.
"Of course they weren't. Shooting when you aren't sure you'll hit your target is fucking stupid."
He shrugged, thankful that the medications had reduced his pain to a low throb as the stitches in his back strained slightly. "It was a bit hard to focus with my injured eye and having to fire with my middle finger, but it wasn't that difficult." Aizawa rubbed his face with his right hand, a low chuckle escaping the tired man.
"Of course you'd know how to shoot a gun. Why am I even surprised?"
"Well, I like guns. Is it weird that I know how to use them?"
"It's weird that a 15-year-old likes guns in the first place."
"Well, Rifles are cooler than guns, but I rarely get the opportunity to use them, so... Now the teacher seemed even more exasperated than before, and leveled him with an incredulous look.
You have used a sniper rifle?
Another shrug, and a bright green eye that was clueless and more open than he would have let it be if he was in a clear state of mind. Sniping is fun.
Oh my god.
Yes. Later on, he would decide to blame the meds, but he wouldn't find it in himself to be mad about it. Because as he watched the usually stoic Eraserhead, for lack of a better word, facepalm, he couldn't help the laughter bubbling up from inside. Once alone, he would pause to wonder when he'd last laughed genuinely, without a mask and without cynicism, and he'd realize that he couldn't remember. And he'd decide that it didn't matter. Not when he suddenly felt warm hands at his neck, and a weight he had gotten used to disappear as the coldness of his quirk returned from its hibernation. Wide green eyes met a bloodshot black gaze, a small, genuine smile playing at the hero's lips as he removed the suppressant collar from him and put it away. Izuku's left uninjured hand shot up, rubbing at the sore skin of his throat. Aizawa's smile became a fraction wider, his right hand coming up to ruffle green locks.
I've decided to trust you, problem child.
Ida and Shinzo visited him next, the former boy looking guilty as he took in his patched-up eye and hand missing a finger. Izuku smiled at them, beckoning Ida closer before hitting him over the head with a fist, ignoring Shinzo's snicker.
You're a fucking idiot. I know.
Huffing, Izuku crossed his arms over his chest, frowning.
And here I hoped you'd be straight-laced enough the letter would convince you not to be an idiot.
Ida looked at him, confused. But, in your letter, you said you understood.
I did, he interrupted. And I still do, Ida.
Nevertheless, what you were planning wasn't heroic.
It was villainous.
You used your quirk without a license to harm someone else. If it wasn't for Eraserhead and me lying through our teeth, you'd be kicked out of UA and on your way to juvie, you dumbass. Izuku sighed and rubbed his mangled hand through his hair. Did you, at any point, think how that would make your brother feel? At all? Did you really think he'd want you to die avenging him? I wrote that letter hoping that getting compared to a villain would snap you out of it. Ida gaped at him, and the two hero students watched as their TA growled, glaring at him. I can't believe you made me break my streak. Only 2 more weeks and I'd have had a new record. I was so close to 8 months without being wrong. You better make up for this, Ida. Shinzo was the first to snicker, then full-on laugh, closely followed by his friend and the injured villain. Yes, Izuku decided. He wouldn't be mad that he let them see the side of him. Thank you so much for listening to Chapter 6 of this series. Please remember to leave comments and kudos on Asthmatic Bee's original work, and as always, I have links in the description in my bio for families in Palestine that really need help, so please donate or share the links if you can. Thank you for listening and have a lovely day.